There is a town in southeastern Ohio called Martins Ferry. Like most towns in the Rust Belt of America, its foundation was built on steel and football. Martins Ferry has two famous sons whose names still resonate in the community. One is Lou Groza, a Hall of Fame kicker for the Cleveland Browns. The other is James Wright, a Pulitzer Prize-winning poet who was born in 1927 and died in 1980. One of his most famous works is titled Autumn Begins in Martins Ferry, Ohio. In 3 simple stanzas, Wright describes his town's devotion and dependency on high school football.
In the Shreve High Football Stadium, I think of Polacks nursing long beers in Tiltonsville, and grave faces of Negroes in the blast furnace at Benwood, and the ruptured night watchmen of Wheeling Steel dreaming of heroes. All the proud fathers are ashamed to go home, their women clucked like starved pullets dying for love. Therefore, their sons grow suicidally beautiful at the beginning of October and gallop terribly against each other's bodies.
In 1909, Shreve High played its first game. In the 90 years that followed, the name changed to Martins Ferry High School, but its football legacy has withstood the march of time.
Well, there's been members of our family play, I believe, in every decade in this century.
You just feel the presence of past players and coaches and all the greats that have been around. Like, you know, gives you chills. So many ghosts from the past.
Martins Ferry was a tough town, filled with tough players who often became men before they reached high school.
My dad was a pickler. He would pick steel up and dip it in acid. He had a rubber apron, and he had tires he would cut to fit his hand so he wouldn't cut them by picking the steel up. When I was in the 4th grade, he fell down steps and broke his leg. And then everybody had to go out and get a job. I worked on a milk truck. Pay was 50 cents and 1 quart of chocolate milk, which was good wages, and I saved enough money to buy a $30 bike.
For most of the 20th century, Wheeling Steel was the town's main employer, and football talent was its most famous export. In 1962, Martins Ferry was riding a 35-game unbeaten streak when Life magazine published a story on the team and the town.
Everybody was pepped up and expecting a nice write-up, and here the write-up focused on getting out of town.
The boy had a glove on that was torn, and they talked about Martins Ferry didn't have enough money to buy new gloves. So kids all over the country started sending us money to buy new gloves. They degraded the whole town. Things like the only reason the boy played football was so he'd get a scholarship, wouldn't have to go in the mill to work.
It may have been a way out, but if you got a scholarship to go, you're going to say no. You're going to take it, right? Well.
Lifelong residents expected a story describing football as the heart and soul of their town. Instead, the magazine seemed to rip the heart out of the town.
It wasn't fair. If I knew the guy today, I'd choke him. By God, I'd give him hell. Yeah, I would.
People, myself included, never wanted to leave here. I never wanted to leave. All the good times were spent right here in Martins Ferry.
With his father toiling in a glass factory, James Wright never shared his neighbors' enthusiasm for the town. After being cut from the high school football team, he turned to writing as his ticket to a better life. When he left for college in 1947, Wright left Martins Ferry for good.
So the poem fits into that archetypal pattern of the escape from the small town. Somebody who knows this world very well is suddenly seeing it at a little bit of a distance. And in seeing it at a distance, he's seeing something about it that's really beautiful, but also tragic.
In the Shreve High Football Stadium, I think of Polacks nursing long beers in Tiltonsville, and grave faces of Negroes in the blast furnace at Benwood, and the ruptured night watchmen of Wheeling Steel dreaming of heroes.
It calls up that hard, gritty world of ethnic America. Black guys had the hardest jobs nearest the heat. Their faces are gray from the heat. And the ruptured night watchman of wheeling steel, that means the guy who's done hard physical labor and busted his gut now has the lousy job of being the night watchman. They all have tough jobs in a tough world, and they're dreaming of heroes.
All the proud fathers are ashamed to go home. Their women cluck like starved pullets, dying for love.
We don't all get what we want in life. People fail of their ambitions. They die young. People who love each other screw up, and it fills people with violence and longing.
Therefore, their sons grow suicidally beautiful at the beginning of October and gallop terribly against each other's bodies.
The poem says, the men work hard at lives that are unfulfilling, in which they can't see themselves heroically. And the women are dying for men who can be men to come and be with them, and these men can't. And the kids grow up feeling that in their bones. It's as if the sons, sensing the frustration of their parents and sensing what their future is likely to be, want to be alive in their bodies right now. And the kids come bursting into this ring of light out of the locker room, and everybody cheers for the young heroes.
Let's go, hey. Let's go. Hey, line. 1, 2, 3.
Martin's Ferry has had a 90-year romance with high school football. James Wright wrote about his town's love of the game, but he also tried to capture its reliance on it.
James Wright felt that football was an all-encompassing fascination for Martin's Ferry, overwhelming everything else. High school football becomes the justification for everything else in life.
There were a lot of bars in this town at one time, and everybody was in the bar, and that's all they talked about. They wanted to go back to work the next day or the following Monday and brag about their high school team. They still do.
Everybody is like a part of the team. It's our boys, our team, our players. Being a senior, you know, you realize this is it. There's no next year. Putting on the purple, playing at Ferry Stadium.
Seniors, you have 12 quarters left on this field. You have 12 quarters left. I'll leave a little piece of yourself out there in each quarter that you play.
I guess you just want time to freeze, stop.
Time is not frozen in southeastern Ohio. Things come and go. Steel mills close, players graduate. A poet leaves and returns only in his writing. But Martin's Ferry will always have football.
Right now, I think we look around and see that people move away and that the town is having difficulty paying its bills and so on, but we've got a winning team. So we go happily to the games and forget our troubles for a while.
He saw the nature of shame and failure in America as interesting part of our character as the other. I don't know if towns are ever entirely flattered by the portraits that their writers give them. I don't think it would work as a Chamber of Commerce slogan, but I don't think it's an epitaph either.